Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Teresa Castro, and I'm a proud alumna and staff member in UNC's Office of Alumni Relations. Thank you all for joining us today for the Alumni Career Panel, Careers in Computer Science and Information Technology. Today, we will learn from and connect with fellow UNC Bears working in this industry. Before I introduce you to our panelists, I would like to share a couple housekeeping items. First, this event will be recorded and will be available on demand a week after the event on the alumni website. I will post a link in the chat. Two, I invite you all to start building your network and reach out to our panelists after the event. I will post their contact information in the chat toward the end of this virtual event. And three, I will go off screen after introductions and will return toward the end of the event to provide a closing statement. As we highlight the careers of these alumni, I invite students, fellow staff, and faculty to ask questions through the Q&A feature. Now, please help me in welcoming our panelists. Panelists, please introduce yourself by stating your name, pronouns, title, the organization you work for, your UNC degree, and a little bit about yourself. Michael, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Bush. I'm the Senior Director of IT for the Rockies. It is a pleasure to be here. Basically, we don't have a CIO function here at the Rockies, but that's my job. I head up all of technology for the Rockies. My team is responsible for Coors Field, for Salt River Fields, which is our spring training facility. We have a Dominican Academy down in the Dominican Republic. And then we just recently built next door to Coors Field a multi-use development called McGregor Square that my team is also responsible for. We do everything networking, fiber infrastructure, information security, help desk support, cell phones, telephony, everything. So it's a great job. It's a lot of fun. And it's definitely an avenue into sports that I didn't ever consider. Basically, when I graduated in 1993 with my accounting degree from UNC.
Thank you, Michael. Dom, how about we go to you next?
Yep. My name is Dom Seha. I graduated in December of 2011 with a business degree. From there, I also was a student athlete. And from there, I actually transitioned into IT, kind of web development towards my senior year of college, then moved into software development. And now I'm currently a data engineer, senior data engineer with a consultancy firm called CFO Solutions. What I do a lot of is integrating different ERP systems, bringing that data into a centralized warehouse or lakehouse, and then from there, doing data cleansing, doing data scrubbing, normalizing, everything, trying to get the data harmonized. And then we're building out analytical solutions, business intelligence reports, cubes, to help C-level executives be able to make their organization run smoothly, look at numbers, financial statements, a number of different business intelligence to help businesses save money and keep things moving efficiently. Been doing this for about 3 or 4 years now. The data side, I really enjoy it. It's a great way to just expand the mind, utilize cognition. And it's interesting that now kind of over the years, I finally have kind of been able to bring back my business degree into my current job with IT. So it's been a great way to kind of harmonize these two functions and really having a great time doing that.
Thank you, Dom. Alice, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Alice Haysacker. My pronouns are her, she. I have a bit of a different approach to getting into tech. I graduated with my bachelor's from UNC in 2015 in geology, and then my master's also in 2017 in geology. And I worked for a few years in oil and gas before I decided to make a transition into tech. I taught myself Python in the evenings after work, and then ultimately did a boot camp. And that's how I landed in this industry. And I really like it. I currently work for a large automotive company. I do a lot of machine learning and modeling. And it's really interesting work. I really enjoy it.
Thank you, Alice. And then Phil, why don't you close us out?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Philip Wyperd, he, him, his. I graduated from UNC in 2001 with a CIS degree. My career actually started working as a student employee in a computer lab in the basement of Candelaria. So those who are alums might have had a class in Candelaria. From there, I kind of worked myself into a full-time position my senior year. And then from there, I kind of worked my way through the ranks on the client services aspect. And then ultimately, I kind of managed that unit. And then from there, about 8 years ago, I took a leap. I went from kind of the client side to the ERP side. And I became the director of our ERP unit, where we oversee DBAs, developers, business analysts. And then finally, about 14 months ago, I was selected as the CIO. So I'm currently the CIO of UNC. I also teach some classes over in the business school. I've taught BA 101, some introductory programming classes, and I'm currently teaching online info systems, so 300 for all those who business alums that probably had to take that class as well. So I've been a bear a long time, so I've been here full time for 22 years, and just really excited to be a part of this, and also kind of help maybe some future bears alums with the workplace. So with that, today I'm your moderator, and I'm super excited about our panel, and I look forward to walking through some of our prepared questions. But also, if you have any questions from the audience, please post them, and we'll try to either fit them in if it's kind of on topic, or we can kind of save them to the end as well. So with that, I'll just jump right into the first question. And that first question is, how did your UNC experience help you launch into your career and arrive at your current role? And I'm going to start with Michael on that.
All right, thank you. So I guess the core foundation of the education is sort of the obvious answer, right? Even though it sounds like a few of us, got different degrees than computer science or networking or anything like that. We were able to parlay sort of that functional knowledge that we earned at UNC. And be able to apply some of that functional knowledge in a different way. And that's, whenever people ask me, whether I'm mentoring or speaking at engagement, that's probably my biggest piece of advice is, don't close down pathways just because you think they might be impossible, because you might be able to someday flip what on its ear and go, oh, well, this other new thing that's exciting and fun to me, I can actually make a career out of that. Again, like I said in my opening, I never thought I'd be in sports. And my two passions now outside of my family are baseball and technology. And so, I mean, what more could I ask for in a dream job than what I did?
Thanks, Michael. I would agree. I have a couple staff who would love to have your job. Dom, how has UNC experience helped you launch into your career?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm going to focus a little bit on the soft skills. Because again, kind of everybody on the panel, I myself as well did not get a computer science degree from UNC. Definitely came in from the business side. Also was a student athlete. But some of the soft skills that I learned just from Montfort College of Business, and even being an athlete as well, that really transition well into the workplace is things like time management, discipline, professionalism, character, teamwork, collaboration, organization, being a leader, truly being able to communicate and having kind of that utmost confidence. I'm gonna kind of want to hammer on the soft skills a little bit because I've seen with a lot of the companies that I worked for, and even during the interview process, there's some companies and organizations that you could have all the technical skills in the world, but if you don't have the soft skills and you cannot fit into the culture, most companies are not going to hire you. So you want to be able to, be accountable, be someone that your team can rely upon, being able to speak up, being able to, not kind of be that kind of sore, that cancer within the team, because a lot of organizations just truly do not want that. So the things that really UNC helped me get up to speed with and helped me as I've kind of gone through my journey and my career is really a lot of these soft skills that I lean a lot on, especially being a consultant, where you need to be able to have the communication skills and also the technical skills as well. Because I find that my job and my work, I would say, is 60% communication, 30% tech, and 10% just administrative organization aspects. And so it's been interesting as I've kind of gone from days of heavy coding in my 20s, as now I'm getting a little bit older. My business degree is actually becoming more and more prevalent. A lot of the finance, a lot of the accounting, I'm actually starting to utilize a lot. And so the soft skills have really been something that UNC provided me with. And I want to help kind of convey that to you guys to really focus on that as well as you kind of get into the tech industry, because a lot of companies really do focus a lot on that. Like I said, sometimes you could have all the, you could be great at a wizard, but sometimes they might not hire you just because you're not a good fit for the team. So definitely focus on that. But that's been very helpful for me in my career.
Thanks, Don. I can't agree more. I have a great story of where I watched Bill Gates and Warren Buffett give a presentation at the University of Nebraska Business School. And they said, what's the number one skill you look for? And they're like, the ability to communicate and publicly speak, because they can have all the tech people they want, but if you can't relay that idea in like a concise and clear manner, you might hit a ceiling. So focusing on those soft skills is critical. So thank you. Alice?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with both Dom and Michael. Those are all great things. I think for me, it was definitely the skill of learning that I think is the most prominent. I certainly didn't go to UNC thinking that I was going to get into geology. I went in with an entirely different trajectory. So when I changed my major, I really had to learn how to learn. And so coming out of UNC, I feel like that's, especially since I've made another career transition, something that I heavily rely on is that, okay, I know where I can go find information. I know that I can absorb that information and apply it. And that was, I think, one of the best skills I think I learned through UNC was learning how to learn and then apply it. Yeah.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, I would say it's the same for me. From what all three of the panelists have had to say is the ability to not only learn independently, but also in a group and how to manage a group. In the business school, I remember my girlfriend, now wife at the time, was like, if you have to meet with one more group, I swear, at the wooden tables in the basement of Kettner. But it plays now. Like I feel like I have those group skills now. It's interesting. I'll play kind of like what Dom said. Like right now, I'm putting together a marketing and communication program for campus, and like I'm a CIS stuff person, right? So I knew I cut code, I did all these things, but now it's like the back of my brain, it's there. It's like, oh yeah, this is important, and this we do need to market. We do need to let people know what we do, right? So it's all critical skills. It's not just the ability to code, but it's all the pieces together that I think that UNC provided me to let me be successful. So, okay, with that, let's move on to the second question. As technology continues to shape various industries, how do you foresee the future job market in computer science and information technology evolving? And are there any emerging roles or trends that students should be aware of as they prepare to launch their careers? And I'll start with Dom on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take a kind of a pivot on this. I'm going to come back to the question because I'm going to tie everything into it. I think as the industry is moving, it's moving at a rapid pace. One thing that I would really want to articulate to the students watching this is that start to learn the principle of know thyself. Know what you're truly passionate about. Know what you want to do. And sometimes it's easier to know what you don't want to do. And over the years, you kind of realize, all right, I don't want to do this. Let me find the next thing. I don't want to do that. Because what I see now in industry is that there's not a lot of ramp up time. You're kind of thrown into a role and you're almost expected to have an impact almost immediately. And then you're also going to be, because things are changing so fast, there's so many different systems, there's so much data that's being flooded into these organizations, you're going to be tasked to learn new things very quickly. And so being able to know yourself is going to help you to be able to, again, rely on those soft skills. As Alice talked about, being able to be resourceful, being able to learn quickly, and truly be happy in that process, because you don't want to be somewhere that is not enjoyable and, every day I have to wake up and I really don't want to be there. But to kind of bring that back to the original question, things I see that are really emerging in today's world is just because there's so much data, it's more now you're having to be an integrator. You're having to learn how to take all these different systems, tie them together, create a data model, and then create that for your particular organization, and start to bring that data in. You have things like automation. Now you have the artificial intelligence, things like the large language models, the chat GPTs of the world. Again, data anything, data engineering, analysts, consultants, data science, and then cybersecurity, and just cloud are really big computer technical skills that I see that are just rapidly emerging. But the thing is that you really gonna have to just move fast, and you're gonna be throwing the roles, and you're almost needing to make an impact extremely quickly. So the best thing you can do is to know yourself, kind of know your worth, know where you want to be, so that way you're able to, respond and adapt to the ever-changing environment. Because you're gonna, you might sign up for a job, get hired, and your role's going to change within a month, within 6 months, within a year, because of the industry is moving so quickly. You need to be able to be adaptable, to be able, and that's going to help you be, ultimately happy. So it's really about knowing yourself and where you want to be, because there's so much different opportunities out there, because tech is touching everything, from advertisements to to sports to the hospitals to healthcare, education. Tech basically is touching every industry, and so just truly knowing yourself and where you want to be, I think is a great tool, piece of wisdom that I would give to you guys that I've seen in the industry over my 12, 13 years now.
Thanks, Don. That's really good. I mean, you want to be happy in what you do, so knowing yourself is a great place to start. And then, yeah, and tech, kind of back to what Alice said of the ability to learn, right, and having that ability to adapt and learn. So, yeah, that's great. Alice.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to piggyback off of that. Certainly technology is moving super fast. What I feel like I heavily leverage my scientific background. I certainly helps to have that kind of mind frame going into looking at a lot of these problems, a lot of the problems that I look at. But one of the things that I see emerging a lot is being able to prompt AI, like to really be able to know how to interface in with the technology. So like improving your chat GPT prompts, and so that you know what you're asking, so that you can get what you want back out. It's the old garbage in, garbage out type mentality. I see, so I predominantly use Python. A lot of my coworkers use R. And so what I've experienced, especially using ChatGPT or any other AI platform, is that being able to translate code, even at a generic level, so that you can translate in between languages, has been really impactful. But certainly knowing a language, I think, is more and more important as we move forward. My youngest sister is a sophomore in college, and I keep telling her that she should try and learn one language, any language, because I think it's just going to be so important almost everywhere moving forward.
I agree. Yeah, the AI modeling is definitely impacting, but you have to know it, right? Like at the end of the day, you got to it can help you get there, but you got to know at the end of the day. Right.
Yeah. I've certainly asked some questions, and I've gotten some pretty garbage code back. And I'm like, and if I didn't know what I was looking at, I would have been like, oh, this is great. But certainly you have to ask precisely, and it's sort of an art. It takes time to learn.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, Michael.
My space bar went to a different shortcut. Sorry. So I think agreeing with the other two panelists 100%. Those are all going to be very needed functions in the in the coming workforce. But the way I sort of look at it is the power of generative AI offers putting the power of a coder, if you will, or a data scientist into the hands of the end user, and anything that's going to facilitate that transfer of knowledge, so somebody can easily be sitting at their a business analyst can be sitting at their computer saying, hey, I want to get some analysis over the last 5 months with these parameters, and any language data engineer, data scientist that can enable that function to put the power in the hands of the end user is going to be super valuable. And that's coming a lot faster than we think it is, because that's the power of this generative AI. Is people are realizing, it'll, in my opinion, is going to transform the world like Google did, where whereas Google just sort of regurgitates what's already out there, and then you get to sort of choose what you want to do. ChatGPT takes all those data sources and comes up with novel content, and that is the power of what we're going into. Now, that being said, I also feel like cybersecurity is just going to be just going to explode even more than it has. There's a couple reasons for that. One is we can't find, as an employer, we can't find qualified resources. So having sort of that slant and being able to get into that information security realm will be sort of a guaranteed paycheck. You might not ever be a CIO, but you're also never going to be unemployed. So you got to balance that for yourself and where you want to land. But I think more than anything, if you just have, especially in tech, just have a never give up attitude, and there's always going to be a solution for something. It might take a while, and it might look impossible to get from here to there, but if you have that, we're actually going to get from here to there attitude, that's going to go a long way in the marketplace.
All right, well, thank you, Michael. I couldn't agree more on the cybersecurity. I think every company now is a data company in reality, and so being able to protect that data is critical to a reputation. I think reputation goes a long ways in our industry. So, okay, with that, we'll move on to the next question, which is diversity and inclusion are important topics in every industry today. Can you share insights into how the tech industry has evolved in terms of diversity and inclusion during your career? And what actions or initiatives do you believe are necessary to promote greater diversity and inclusion in tech-related professions? We're going to start with Alice on this one.
Diversity and inclusion. I feel like tech is still, it has some room to grow, for sure. It has quite a bit of room to grow. I have been lucky enough that I have worked on teams that have been very diverse. I've worked on teams that were exclusively women, which it was really cool. It was really cool. It was a brief period of time, but it was a lot of fun. I think a lot of it has to do with how we market tech and how we get people into the industry in the first place. And so I think like a lot of places like UNC is doing a good job of trying to pull everybody in the direction that they can and not making it exclusive. I certainly think that, it starts a lot younger, like elementary school. I think we should get a lot more kids into tech or, just previously exclusive and career choices earlier. But I think it's definitely moving in the better direction.
Thank you, Alice. Dom?
Yeah, I agree with what Alice says, and I kind of might be a little bit kind of a polemic and a little bit controversial in my statement, but I'd almost shift the problem more towards a talent shortage than a diversity problem, because I truly think that there are a plethora and an abundant amount of resources that are available nowadays between scholarships and fellowships and different boot camps and apprenticeships and certifications that are out there trying to get people into the industry, especially people of color. Especially, speaking from my community, the Black, as a Black American, I just don't see a lot of people that look like myself wanting to get into tech. And I think that, from my perspective, is kind of more the issue. But on the flip side, there are a ton of resources that are available for individuals who have the ability and really, like I said, have the will to want to actually put the work in, and create a career for themselves. Because, like as Michael said, if you're in this industry, you'll never be unemployed because it's like there's so much demand. We're constantly trying to hire people. Everybody always talks about the doom and gloom of the recession and everybody's laying people off, but like we're constantly hiring people. I started the firm I'm at now 3 months ago, and we've hired at least 6, 7 people within the data space, just because we have so much contracts and we have so much pipeline of business. So I think if there's people of color on the web call, I would really challenge you to, if you really want to get serious about this, definitely reach out to me, because there's content creators that are pumping the resources in these different programs, where you can join a boot camp, and from the boot camp go directly and get hired by a company making 6 figures because they want to groom you. My practice at my firm, we don't take on new grads, but we have other practices in our firm where we take on new grads who might not even have any computer science background, but we'll groom you over a year or 2 years, and then we'll get you into projects. And so that's really the problem that I see. I mean, yes, there's not a lot of diversity in tech. It's still heavily dominated, to certain ethnicities, but I think it's not so much that we're trying to exclude people. It's just there's a true talent shortage, and I just don't think a lot of people that look like myself want to get into tech, maybe because it's too intimidating, or it's, maybe we just didn't give the opportunity. To Alice's point, I think it does start a lot younger, because it's really more of that's how you think. Tech is all about thinking. It's being able to think abstractly, think programmatically, being able to think logically, breaking down a problem and breaking it into smaller steps, and conquering those smaller steps in order to get your true solution. But if I'm trying to get like my little nieces into it, but they're just so caught up in everything else and what's on social media, and this is not really sexy because it's but there's so much demand, and I don't almost make a controversial statement that you don't even need to go to school if you really want to be in tech, because you can go to one of these boot camps, get certified, and then get to a company where they basically groom you, because you're a fresh grad, and we'll kind of train you up in our way of doing things, and then we'll basically get you billable or get you into the company and having an impact. So I would challenge anybody on the call that really wants to be serious about getting into tech, that you have to put the work in, and we'll kind of get to the question later, but networking and talking to the right people, because I've never been in an interview where I felt like nobody wanted me. It's, do you have the skill sets? Can you communicate? And do you know what's going on, and we'll hire you. And so I kind of would want to focus on that. But it does still need work, but it's really focusing on people wanting to put the work in to get something out of it.
Thank you. I usually try to have something thoughtful to say, but I'm just going to let that be. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael.
Dom, thank you for that, because I was sitting here awkwardly thinking, how to gently say, I feel like it's a talent shortage issue, because, in my recent experience, like I just hired a senior network engineer, and I got 155 resumes, and I got 3 of them were women, and 10, I mean, it just, the pool wasn't big enough for me to really make an informed decision, that where I just felt like if I could have had more choices, that it would have been a little bit easier to make that decision. But that being said, I was just at a CIO conference in Boston about 2 weeks ago, and this is a very hot subject across that level of organizations, and many of these larger sort of global or even national organizations, like big insurance companies, or like defense contractors, or large manufacturers. They all have the same issues, but they have the means to like Dom was saying, really bring you along, even if you don't have experience, where they have some programs that are specifically targeted towards African Americans, towards women, towards transgender, towards veterans, where there is a diversity in thought. And there are several programs out there that that will get you. And honestly, I was talking to some of my counterparts, and they said they feel the most success whenever they bring those people along at those lower levels. They get they fulfill their commitment at the company, which is 1 or 2 years, and then they go off to another company and as an elevated role, so they're going to be an assistant director or director somewhere else, just because they got such great experience at sort of the foundational level at the company that offers those programs. So like Dom and Alice were saying, you take advantage of them. If you're so inclined, you got to put in the work. You're not just going to be given the job. You've got to set yourself apart somehow. But being a diverse candidate in this pool, and you set yourself apart, you're going to be well set up for your future.
Thank you, Michael. I'm really lucky to work at UNC for many reasons, but in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, we have an entire department. We have a vice president that sits on our cabinet. We have a thorough training program that's an opportunity for everyone. So specifically, I have all of our hiring managers go through a foundational course. They're called Unite courses. But what I can also say is about 70% of my staff are former students. And we have a lot of student employees, and we have a very diverse population here at UNC. So what we've decided to do is be very intentional on hiring our students, because if you have the will to learn and you want to do it, we'll train you up. And much like Dom, you said, like we'll mentor you for those 2 to 3 years, we'll do that. And then if 70% of my staff comes from students, in the long term, I should have a very diverse staff. So in this last year, we've done a very intentional hiring practice to where students of different backgrounds have opportunities to, if you don't really even have to know a whole lot about computers, but you just got to have the will to learn and the right fit, good personality, right? Because a lot of it's customer service. We'll definitely bring you on. So real excited about to see how that plays out in the next couple of years. I'll move on to the next question. Michael, you got time to take the first one on this one, or I know you gotta leave, so I just want to make sure we're good on time.
Yeah, I actually got 15 more minutes, so I'm not as pressed as I thought I once was.
Okay, so we do have a question, which is what helped you get where you are now, and I think it kind of leads into this question, which is how did you build or strengthen your networks? And why is networking and relationship building important to your work in computer science and information technology? And I'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah, and that I was remiss because answering the first question, I actually wrote it down here that I was going to come back to it, and that was farm your network as much as you can, because the warm introduction will get you so much further than the best resume. You still got to have a good resume, but if it's handed to a hiring manager with the warm introduction, hey, this is my kid's best friend's roommate, even if it's something like that, it's going to put you at the top of a pile, and so, pay attention to what your friends are doing. Pay attention to what your friends' parents do. Does somebody work at a company that you would be interested in, and maybe, get a coffee with them, just farm the network, and that just becomes so valuable because, like I said, for the last job, 155 resumes, it's hard to go through that many resumes, and it's hard to take in that much information in the short amount of time. So, I would commit, 2 or 3 minutes to reading each resume. But if there was one that, hey, this person is known by, our director of ticketing, is like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll take another couple minutes with that, or something like that. And don't underestimate the power of LinkedIn, and reaching out to people there. It's that's the purpose of that whole platform, right? Is for business networking, and that obviously crosses over into the domain that we're talking about. There are so many computer jobs. There are so many help wanted out there, and there's so many people that if you research a company that, oh, this is a third connection of mine at this company. Well, how do I know that? Oh, wow, that's a friend of somebody's dad, or whatever it might be. And just farming that, even though you're like, why would this person care about me? Everybody wants to help. So don't be afraid to ask.
Great advice, Mike. Dom.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off what Mike said, I couldn't agree anymore. Because again, for me, I didn't go to computer science in college, and so one thing that I utilized heavily, especially in my 20s, was, I know this is pre-COVID, but things like meetups. There's an app called Meetup, and I would go just to different technical groups. So I'd go to, back in the day there was SharePoint. I'd go to different web development groups. I'd go to a SQL group. And from there, I'm very curious by nature. So I would just ask different questions. I'd ask, hey, what do you do? What type of work do you do? What do you find interesting about your job? If someone who's young who wants to come in this industry, what are things to learn? What things I should focus on? And being able to just absorb information from people who actually work in the industry helped me tailor, what should I really be focusing on? What should I be learning? And then at the same time, you're building a relationship and you're building out a network, because I can definitely say that some of the people that I've met from those meetups, I'm still in very close contact with today. I've used them as references when I've gotten hired, and clients are particular potential employers are looking for references. I've used a lot of those people that I met in my 20s from purely just networking and meeting them through these meetups. So one thing that I would really say is focus on really asking thought-provoking questions. As if you're self-taught and you're learning different things, ask individuals that you're meeting with, or even you're reaching out to say, hey, can we grab a coffee? Ask certain things about their industry specific or technically specific. Learn to establish that common ground, rapport, and just build those harmonious relationships. I think is an excellent tool, because again, one of my great, I was a student athlete, and one of my coaches that unfortunately passed away. One thing that really stuck out to me, that what he told me, is that it's not so much what you've done, it's what you know and who you know. And that quote has stuck with me to this day, and it's been almost 12 years since I've heard that. And those two things go a long ways. If you're constantly staying abreast on the latest, knowledge and your technical skills, or you've mastered, to Alice's point a few moments ago, you've mastered one thing. For me, I've mastered SQL, because I love data and I love analytics, so I've mastered SQL. If you want to master JavaScript, you want to master again Python, whatever that is, utilize that, and then being able to have those conversations with people in that industry, and building out your network can take you a long ways. Because if you have the technical skills, as Michael said, and then you're able to know somebody that's going to get you a foot in the door to get you to the interview process, and then from there it's your soft skills compounded with your technical skills that's going to help you be a differentiator in the interview process, and it's going to help you get you hired. So the power of networking, the power of just communication, relationships, it's essential in today's business world. And so, heavily focus on that. I know some technical people might not be the most extroverted, but there's different techniques that you can use to help, get people to talk. Because a lot of times people just want to be heard. So, if you're kind of shy, if you're, kind of not really the outspoken, learn to ask a lot of questions and just sit back and listen, ask open-ended questions and let the other person do all the talking. There's different ways to tackle, the social anxiety issues and things of that nature, but relationships are everything in this business, and you have to, utilize that to your advantage, as you're working and moving your way up and moving your way through your career.
Thanks, Dom. In my programming class I taught, my one advice was, if I have one thing for you to learn, it's SQL. If you can learn SQL, you will have a job. You will have a job, I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
So
Definitely.
thank you for that. Alice?
Yeah, okay, so I agree. And I think a lot of the time that sounds like, man, I need to have this massive LinkedIn network. And, I want to have like 1,000 people that I'm connecting with and sending out like a bunch of different, like, cold calls, essentially, like sending out different messages. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. But from my experience, switching from geology to tech, like I had to start all over with my network. The people that I knew in geology were not the people that were going to help me find a position as a data scientist, not necessarily. So I felt like I was starting really from ground zero and out of college. So I didn't have a lot of that, academic resources even. And I did a lot of the networking groups. And the one thing that I really feel like is important, in addition to like, don't be afraid to ask what you feel like might be a stupid or simple question, because sometimes that's even just a good conversation starter. But also don't be a network shark. And what I mean by that is like, there's always somebody at every networking event that's just like card happy and just sending out cards and like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? And you can just really get this sense that they're like not really interested in having a creating a connection or a meaningful connection with you. They're just interested in numbers and names. And they take the approach as like a really, like, if I send out 150 business cards, then surely somebody will ping me back in this big numbers game. So what I found that has been really beneficial for me is creating very meaningful connections, even if that means that my network is much smaller. So when I was learning Python, I was utilizing some members that worked at my oil and gas company that were in a completely different department. They were helping me along. When I went through the boot camp, some of the members of my boot camp, like we became, you spend 60 hours in the same room, like a week with a group of people, you're going to get close real fast. But that's how I got my first job in tech. Was a member was like, hey, I'm not going to take this offer from this company. I'm happy to pass along some of your names, text me in the next 20 minutes if you're interested. And that's, so those really meaningful connections, I feel like are more important than having, 1,500 connections on LinkedIn.
That's great advice, Alice. Yes, and I think the one thing I would add, I think just a closing point for myself is it is difficult sometimes to put yourself out there, right? So if you are going to do it, make it meaningful, right? And don't be afraid to ask a friend. But also, I kind of have the saying is of be humble and kind, but be confident. So if you put the work in, be confident. I think sometimes there's some people that are like, well, I can't do it. It takes a lot of courage to ask someone, but then when you walk in, if you've put the work in, be confident and sell yourself. So, especially if you're a learner, you're not going to walk in and just know the job day one. So, with that, let's move on to the next question, which is, could you share a specific challenge or obstacle you faced in your career, and how did you overcome it? And what is one lesson you learned from that experience, and how can current students learn from your experience and prepare themselves to navigate similar challenges in their future careers? And we're going to start with Dom on this one.
Yeah, so for me, it's some of the biggest challenges I've always dealt with is sometimes comes with colleagues when tight deadlines happen and people just not being accountable and carrying their part of the team. And I struggled with this a lot because coming from sports, sometimes you just are very blunt and you're direct. But like in the business world, you can't be like that. And sometimes I get passionate, I get emotional, and kind of learn to be too emotional sometimes when I communicate. But one thing that I've learned from that subjective experience that's more objective is truly having that self-awareness, having the emotional intelligence And for me, the big thing that I've have been mastering lately is just the art of business communication. I think, communicating with your friends and family and your personal life is completely different than, communicating with business. It's really, from a business standpoint, learn to speak the actual facts, learn to keep your emotions, somewhat at bay. Obviously we're human, and that part of us is always going to exist. But just being able to convey what's truly going on and being direct. Don't let things sit, don't let things simmer, because it's only going to boil up inside of you, and you're going to end up, kind of losing control in the future. But for me, it's always been, I've had a couple times where I've just had issues with colleagues, and just being able, from that moment, being able to grow from a business communication standpoint, having that direct conversation with the colleague to say, hey, we're maybe not agreeing, maybe not seeing eye to eye on something, but let's just try to find a solution so we continue to work together. Because at the end of the day, we still have to work together as a team. We're still collaborative, and the project still got to get done. So for me, it's really those key concepts of emotional intelligence and business communication. I think will go a long way. Just dealing with people, because you don't have so many different backgrounds, and different ethnicities, and different people from all parts of the world. And so that's one thing it's been a challenge for me. It's just a business communication piece.
I jokingly call it an adult email I have to send from time to time.
Right.
Thanks, Dom. Michael?
Yeah, so I'm good till 5. I just got I told the person to go stick it. This is way more important. So I'd say just going back to career challenges and things for me, the biggest crossroads of my career and my professional life was, I'd been an accountant for 7 years. I went through all of the rigmarole. I got an MBA, I got a CPA. I was employed, but I just wasn't satisfied in what I was doing. And somebody out of my network said, hey, we developed this certain software that I know that you are a super user in here in Denver. So it was kind of lucky, but it was, again, farming the network. And he said to me, we're hiring testers, but we really want people that know the product already and bring those in. And so that was my foot in the door into tech. And then so that company then got bought by a larger company, and then ended up being bought by Microsoft. So I ended up heading up development in Microsoft for 10 years, development in Denver for Microsoft for 10 years. And then but just being able to identify that the way that my career was going was not where I ultimately saw myself, and then B, having the courage, I guess. I mean, I'm not saying I'm such a brave guy or anything like that, but the courage to take the leap, just as Alice did too, right? And Dom too. I guess all three of us really did, right? Just being able to say, hey, this comfy job, this comfy whatever it is, this comfy career that I've sort of known isn't satisfying me. It's not going to get me where I want to go. And I believe in myself enough that I can say, okay, I'm gonna cut this part off and open this door over here and walk through it, and let's see what happens over there. Because at the end of the day, too, you'll always have those other experiences to fall back on, and just being able to have that confidence in yourself to say, I'm going to do this new thing and I'm going to be successful at it. And that goes back to my never give up attitude. That's pervasive across many things. So that's probably my advice.
Thanks. I agree. Taking the leap, right? And sometimes when you hit maybe a glass ceiling too, sometimes of getting out of your comfort zone and say, maybe if I take this leap over to this sector, I get some more advancement. So great advice. Alice?
Yeah, I think, and not, maybe it's not one single instance, but certainly a great challenge that I've had over the years has been imposter syndrome, and just not feeling like I belong in the space that I'm in. And like, surely somebody at some point is going to come down the hall and be like, you need to leave here. And I think for me, that's been a lot of self-work and and learning how to trust myself and be like, and know that I know what I'm talking about, and that I do belong in this space, and I can be very impactful. And so for me, that's been a big game changer, is learning to trust myself.
Good answer. I think I'm hearing a lot of confidence, right? You have to have the confidence in what you know. Yeah, across all the panelists. And that leads us to our last question, which is kind of just, can you provide a final word of advice to the UNC Bears currently seeking a job in computer science and information technology? And Alice, we'll stay with you.
Yeah, I'm excited about this question. I think this one's my favorite one, because I think no matter where you go, whatever space you're in, there's always going to be somebody that like has been there longer, that's done it, has maybe they have an actual degree in the thing that you're doing, or they've spent more time. And for me, it's learning that it's not how smart you may or may not think that you are, it's time. It's how much time that you put in to what you're doing. And certainly what I've seen in my career is that I will have colleagues that are coding wizards. And then I look at what they're able to produce and the amount of time they're able to produce it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks like this looks like magic. There's no possible way that I'm going to meet up to that point. And it's just realizing that, they've been doing this 6 years longer than I have. And that, eventually I will get to that spot. So it's not necessarily IQ all the time. It's time.
That's really insightful. Thank you. Dom.
Yeah, for me, I would say, honestly, just where the world's going today, especially for, the folks that are, TS majors and in the information space, just realize how much power you truly have. The economy is built on the backbone of really us and people that's on this call, people that's on this panel. And we have so much power that I think sometimes we might not know that, but it's really being able to be confident in that, to Alice's point, be confident in your skill set, even though you might not know, or you might be at that senior level, that principal level, or, the executive level, but just be confident in that with time, with patience, and with hard work, I can get to where I want to be. But at the same time, I am valuable in my particular role and within this economy. And so for me, it's kind of going back to knowing the principle of know thyself, know what you're passionate about. If you're not happy somewhere, definitely don't feel like you have to be beholden to a particular employer. I think that time has changed. And I've kind of learned that the hard way myself, because I was with a particular company for almost 6-7 years. And as I kind of tried the interview process to get out of that space, a lot of companies kind of looked at me like, why were you there so long? Because nowadays it's like you go to a company for a year or 2 years and you move on. But don't be afraid to do that. If you just feel like, all right, I thought this role was what I want to do, but it's not actually what I want to do, pivot. And it's okay, because again, there's opportunity elsewhere. You want to be somewhere that you're going to be happy. You want to be somewhere that you're going to feel fulfilled. And if you need to get a pay raise, sometimes you have to, swap roles, because at the same time, on the flip side, the employer will let you go, with over an email. It can be very brash and very emotionless. So it's really just knowing your worth, knowing your value, knowing that you are important to this economy, and exude just that true utmost confidence. Even if you might not know something, just fake it till you make it. And at the end of the day, in the tech world, things are very tangible. So you can't, if you know it, it's going to show in the code, it's going to show on the screen, it's going to show in the browser, if it's working, if it's not working. So, just master yourself, know yourself, communicate, be confident. And really one thing too is really work on the interview prep as well. That's a big thing that I've learned over the years, and just learn how to communicate and answer the question in a very concise manner, and communicating and getting your ideals conveyed to the person that you're interviewing with. But I know I could talk a while about this too, because there's a lot of things that will help you in the industry, but just those things, kind of knowing where you want to be, and slowly learn the industry as well, because there's so many different paths you can go down. There's government type work, there's startup type work, there's Fortune 500 type work, there's consultancy work, there's freelance work, digital nomads becoming a big thing. So there's all these different spaces that you can go into, and don't be afraid to try different spaces until you find, what you truly want to be, because sometimes you might not know until you actually do it, what you want and what you don't want. So, just be yourself and really just, explore, until you find what you really love.
Thanks, Dom. Michael?
I couldn't agree with all the advice more. I mean, there were so many good gems in there. I mean, like, but at that going back to that CIO conference in Boston that I went to a couple of weeks ago, something that they said in there that really stuck with me is you can't have a business plan without a technology plan. And I thought, man, that exactly what Dom was saying. We have so much leverage in whatever industry we're in, because we're in the information age, right? And that's half of the title, right? Information technology, right? So we have a plethora of opportunities, and there's a bunch of different ways that you can go. But I guess just sort of as a hiring manager, the two things, and piece of advice for students coming out is, one, stay current, because technology changes so quickly, and for better or for worse, the skills that you may have learned in your junior year of your CS degree might not be relevant in just 1 year, but there's a flavor of it that is. So just stay current on whether it's the language or the technology or the storage or the data engineering, whatever it might be. Just stay current. And then, to kind of piggyback on something that Dom said, the interview prep is of utmost importance. And, something that worked well for me in my career was just go study a little bit about the company, just know a little bit about the company, about their history, about the specific job that you're going for, about the department you're looking to work in. And if you can ask very direct and poignant questions to the interviewer, that goes a long way. Like, hey, this person put in the time before they're sitting here talking to us, and that really goes a long way into getting a second interview and getting you down the road.
Thank you. I would agree. When you see a job posting and it has desired qualifications, preferred, required qualification, answer those within your application, within your resume, within your cover letter, and make sure that you come prepared to answer those questions in an interview. And knowing a little bit about that company too, and how that'll be applicable to that company is critical. And I know we're running out of time, but I'm just going to say, be confident and work hard. Really, if you're confident, work hard. Things are gonna work out for you. I know it sounds really simple, but like, seriously, stay true to yourself, work hard, and good things will happen. So. All right, well, thank you, panelists. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone who attended. And I'm going to hand it over to Teresa.
Thank you, Phil. And honestly, thank you to all of you panelists, moderator, and all of you who have joined us today. It is always an honor and a pleasure to host fellow Bears and hear about their UNC experience, their unique identities, career paths, and industry insights. Throughout the semester, we will be hosting virtual alumni career panels, and you can learn more if you visit www.unco.edu/alumni/careers. We also have the Center for Career Readiness present to offer some insight into the services and appointment types that they offer. So I'll hand it over to you, Diana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana. I'm the career counselor at the Center for Career Readiness. I wanted to just give a brief overview of what services we have. So we basically focus on helping UNC students and alumni who have graduated up to 3 years in major exploration, job search, interview and networking tips, building resumes, cover letters, and personal statements. We also hold mock interviews to have conversations with you about how your individualized experiences help you stand out from other applicants. So it came up a lot in this conversation throughout this hour. Our website has a lot of great resources, including exploring and applying to grad school, using your Handshake accounts to find jobs and internships, and other identity-based resources that you might need as you go through your career journey. We're located next to Subway, so just grab some food and walk in for a chat. We have drop-in hours, both in person or virtual, and you can also schedule appointments with us through Handshake or just send us an email and we can schedule some time to meet.
Thank you, Diana. I hope everyone has a great evening, and on a count of three, we're gonna do a little Go Bears, okay? So I'll give you a second to unmute yourselves. Okay, 1, 2, 3, Go Bears!
Go Bears.